Hello, welcome to episode 3 of reading Bhagavad Gita. We left off on page 75 last time. I'll do a little recap because it got really interesting. I think we started, 69. I'll do a little like 5, 6 page recap. It'll be pretty quick. You can follow along with the exact same copy. I'll put the link down in the description. I hope you follow along. This is turning out more and more interesting every episode. So yeah, let's get right into it. So we're on 65, but I'll start from 69. We're on 75, but I'll start from 69 just so we can have a little recap. Arjun asked Krishna, "What is the definition of a God realized soul? Stable to mind and established in samadhi, perfect tranquility of mind. How does the man of stable mind speak? How does he sit? How does he walk?" Right? And then Krishna replies, "Arjun, when one thoroughly dismisses all cravings of the mind and is satisfied in the self through the joy of the self, then he is called stable of mind." So you have to dismiss all cravings of the mind, right? The sage whose mind remains unperturbed amid sorrows, whose thirst for pleasure has altogether disappeared, and who is free from passion, fear, and anger is called the stable of mind. He who is unattached to everything, and meeting with good and evil, neither rejoices nor recoils, his mind is stable. When like a tortoise, I still don't know how to say it correct, which draws in its limbs from all directions, it's like pulling back, right? He withdraws his senses from the sense objects. His mind should be considered as stable. Sense objects turn away from him who does not enjoy them with his senses, but the taste for them persists. This relish also disappears in the case of the man of stable mind when he sees the Supreme. I'll actually read that again. Sense objects turn away from him who does not enjoy them with his senses, but the taste for them persists. This relish also disappears in the case of the man of stable mind when he sees the Supreme. Sense of the objects turn. I think we had some trouble on this one last time too. Sense objects turn away from him who does not enjoy them with his senses, but the taste for them persists. This relish also disappears. So even the wanting of the taste will disappear once he sees the Supreme. Turbulent by nature, the senses even of a wise man who is practicing self-control forcibly carry away his mind. Arjun. Turbulent by nature, the senses even of a wise man who is practicing self-control forcibly carry away from his mind. Arjun. Therefore, having controlled them all and collecting his mind, one should sit for meditation, devoting oneself heart and soul to me, meaning God. For he whose senses are mastered is known to have a stable mind. The man dwelling on sense objects develops attachment for them. From attachment springs up desire, and from desire, unfulfilled, that is, ensues anger. This one's a cool one too. Reread it. The man dwelling on sense objects develops attachment for them. From attachment springs up desire, and from desire ensues anger. From anger arises infatuation. From infatuation, confusion of memory. From confusion of memory, loss of reason, and from loss of reason, one goes to complete ruin. But the self controlled practicant, practicant, while enjoying the various sense objects through his senses, which are disciplined and free from likes and dislikes, attains placidity of mind. With the attainment of such placidity of mind, all his sorrows come to an end, and all the intellect of such a person of tranquil mind, soon withdrawing itself from all sides, becomes firmly established in God. With the attainment of such placidity of mind, all his sorrows come to an end, and the intellect of such a person of tranquil mind, soon withdrawing itself from all sides, becomes firmly established in God. So we're on page 75 now. I'll read this one more time because I don't fully grasp it. With the attainment of such placidity of mind, right? Once you have let go of all your senses, well, you're not controlled by your senses, all his sorrows come to an end. Yes, because you don't have any you don't have any desires, you don't have any fear, pain, right? So all your sorrows come to an end. And the intellect of such a person of tranquil mind, soon withdrawing itself from all sides, becomes firmly established in God. That makes sense. And also, if you don't like the word God, you can replace it with being, right? Because when you're firmly established and once you have let go of all your senses and nothing controls you, you're fully present in the now, right? So you can replace God with being if you don't like God. That I've gotten from The Power of Now is where I know that idea from. It's a good reading, recommended reading as well. He who has not controlled his mind and senses can have no reason, nor can such an undisciplined man think of God. The unthinking man can have no peace. And how can there be happiness for one lacking peace of mind? So if you have not controlled your mind and senses, you cannot have any reason. And such an undisciplined man, such a mind cannot think of God. And you can't have any peace. And how can there be happiness if you don't have peace? As the wind carries away a boat upon the waters, even so of the senses moving among sense objects, the one to which the mind is joined takes away his discrimination. As the wind carries away a boat upon the water, right? Wind carries away a boat upon the water. Even so, of the senses moving among sense objects, the one to which the mind is joined takes away his discrimination. Even so, even so, of the senses moving among sense objects, the one to which the mind is joined takes away his discrimination. So I think what I'm getting from this is like a wind carries away a boat. Like a wind will carry away a boat upon the waters. Even so of the senses moving among sense objects. The one to which the mind is joined takes away his discrimination. So I'm not sure how discrimination comes in, but from here I'm understanding that I think if you're attached to sense objects, your senses are attached to sense objects, then just like how the boat is being carried away by the wind, your mind is being carried away by them? Question mark. Therefore, Arjun, he whose senses are completely restrained from their objects is said to have a stable mind. He whose senses are completely restrained from their objects. So you need to be separate. You need to have restraint. You can't be in love. You can't be, in you can't have attachment to objects. That's how you have a stable mind. That which is night to all beings, in that state of divine knowledge and supreme bliss, the God realized yogi keeps awake, and that the ever changing, transient, worldly happiness, in which all beings keep awake, is night to the seer. That which is night to all beings in that state of divine knowledge and supreme bliss. So, the state of divine knowledge and supreme bliss, that state, for everyone else, it's night. But the God realized yogi keeps awake. Because he sees it. And that meaning the ever-changing, transient, worldly happiness in which all beings keep awake is night to the seer. Oh. And that ever-changing, transient, worldly happiness. So everyone is, for them it's night when you're talking about the state of divine knowledge and supreme bliss. But it's daytime for them for when you're talking about the ever-changing, transient, worldly happiness. And for the God realized yogi, it's the opposite. He does not care about the ever-changing, transient, worldly happiness because he's in the divine knowledge. He has attained the divine knowledge and the supreme bliss. As the waters of different rivers enter the ocean, which through full on all sides remain undisturbed, likewise he is whom all enjoyments merge themselves attains peace, not he who hankers after such enjoyments. As the waters of different rivers enter the ocean, which though full on all sides remain undisturbed, likewise he is whom all enjoyments merge themselves attains peace, not he who hankers after such enjoyments. Okay, let me do this piece by piece. As the waters of different rivers enter the ocean, right? So I'm picturing a big ocean and then there's rivers coming from multiple sides. That makes more sense. Like this. And then the water of different rivers enter the ocean, which though full on all sides remain undisturbed, likewise he is whom all enjoyments merge themselves attains peace. He is whom all enjoyments merge themselves attains peace, not he who hankers after such enjoyments. I think I understand. So, likewise, he is whom all enjoyments merge themselves attains peace. So you want to be the ocean is what I'm getting from this, right? He is whom all enjoyments merge themselves. So all the rivers merge into you, merge themselves, attains peace. not he who hankers after such enjoyments. So you can't, if you want to enjoy the rivers, the enjoyments, you want to be the ocean that, and you have to let it in. You can't go after each one. That's what I get from that. I could be wrong. He who has given all desires and moves free from attachment, egoism, and thirst for enjoyment attains peace. So to attain peace, you have to give up all desires, move free from attachment, not have any ego, not have any thirst for enjoyment. That's how you attain peace. Arjun, such is the state of the God-realized soul. Having reached this state, he overcomes delusion, and established in this state, even at the last moment, he attains Brahmic bliss. Read that again. Arjun, such is the state of the God-realized soul. Realized soul. Having reached this state, he overcomes delusion. And established in this state, even at the last moment, he attains Brahmic bliss. Tritiyodhyaya. The last one we were in. Diptiyodhyaya. We're in Tritiyodhyaya. I'll try to finish this adhyaya, but I'll keep it within an hour, because it takes me some time to understand stuff. Arjun said, Krishna, if you consider knowledge as superior to action, then why do you urge me to this dreadful action? Kesava. अर्जुन बोले, हे जनार्दन, यदि आपको कर्म की उपेक्षा ज्ञान श्रेष्ठ मान्य है, तो फिर हे केशव, मुझे भयंकर कर्म में क्यों लगाते हो? Arjun said, Krishna, if you consider knowledge as superior to action, then why do you urge me to this dreadful action? Why? So the action he's talking about is killing his brothers. You are, as it were, puzzling my mind by these seemingly involved expressions. Therefore, tell me definitely, defiantly, defiantly, the one discipline by which I may obtain the highest good. You are, as it were, puzzling my mind by these seemingly involved expressions. Therefore, tell me defiantly the one discipline by which I may obtain the highest good. Sri Bhagwan said, Krishna said, Arjun, in this world, 2 courses of sadhana, spiritual discipline, have been enunciated by me in the past. That means to have been said. Arjun, in this world, 2 courses of sadhana, spiritual discipline, has been enunciated by me, enunciated in the past. In the case of the Sankhya Yogi, let me make sure I'm saying that, yeah. Sankhya Yogi, Sankhya Yogi. In the case of the Sankhya Yogi, the sadhana proceeds along the path of knowledge, whereas in the case of the Karma Yogi, it proceeds along the path of action. In this world, 2 courses of sadhana, spiritual discipline, has been enunciated by me in the past. In the case of the Sankhya Yogi, the sadhana proceeds along the path of knowledge, whereas in the case of Karma Yogi, it proceeds along the path of action. And pretty sure Krishna wants to choose Karma Yogi, right? Man does not attain freedom from action, culmination of the discipline of action, without entering upon action, nor does he reach perfection, culmination of the discipline of knowledge, merely by ceasing to act. So you have to act. Surely, none of none can ever remain inactive, even for a moment, for everyone helplessly driven to action by nature born qualities. Surely none can ever remain inactive, even for a moment. So neither side, neither of the two spiritual discipline, sadhana or karma yogi, no, Sankhya yogi and karma yogi, neither of the two can, where do we go? Right here. Neither of the two can ever remain inactive, even for a moment. For everyone helplessly driven to action by nature born qualities. He who outwardly restraining the organs of sense and action sits mentally dwelling on the objects of senses, that man of deluded intellect is called a hypocrite. Let's read that again. He who outwardly restraining the organs of sense and action sits mentally dwelling on the objects of senses. That man of deluded intellect is called hypocrite. So if you are outwardly restraining the organs of sense and action, and you sit mentally dwelling on the objects of senses, that man of deluded intellect is called a hypocrite. जो मूढ़ बुद्धि मनुष्य समस्त इंद्रियों को हठ पूर्वक ऊपर से रोक कर मन से उन इंद्रियों के विषयों का चिंतन करता रहता है, वो मिथ्याचार यथार्थ धम भी कहा जाता है. So you can't just sit with you can't just restrain your organs into acting and then sit mentally and dwell on those objects of senses. You have to act. On the other hand, he who controlling the organs of sense and action by the power of his will and remaining unattached undertakes the yoga of action through those organs, Arjun, he excels. On the other hand, he who controlling the organs of sense and action by the power of his will and remaining unattached undertakes the yoga of action through those organs, Arjun, he excels. On the other hand, he who controlling the organs of sense and action by the power of his will. So you have to be in control of your organs of sense and action and remaining unattached. That's probably pretty important. And remaining unattached undertakes the yoga of action through those organs that is controlling by will while remaining unattached. Arjun, he excels. Therefore, do you perform your allotted duty, for action is superior to inaction. Desisting from action, you cannot even maintain your body. Man is bound by his own action except when it is performed for the sake of sacrifice. Therefore, Arjun, do you efficiently perform your duty, free from attachment, for the sake of sacrifice alone? Man is bound by his own action except when it is performed for the sake of sacrifice. Therefore, Arjun, do you efficiently perform your duty free from attachment for the sake of sacrifice alone? Man is bound by his own action except when it is performed for the sake of sacrifice. Therefore, Arjun, Do you efficiently perform your duty, free from attachment for the sake of sacrifice alone? Man is bound by his own action, except when it is performed for the sake of sacrifice. Let me try to read this. Purva, or is it this? यहाँ यज्ञ जिज्ञासा होती है कि शस्त्र विहित यज्ञ, that doesn't help this word. दान और तप आदि शुभ कर्मी भी तो बंधन के होते बने. Okay, let's move forward. We might come back to that. Having created mankind along with the spirit of sacrifice at the beginning of creation, the Creator, Brahma, said to them, "You shall prosper by this. May this yield the enjoyment you seek." Having created mankind along with the spirit of sacrifice at the beginning of creation, the Creator Brahma said to them, "You shall prosper by this. May this yield the enjoyment you seek. Foster the gods through this sacrifice, and let the gods be gracious to you. Each fostering other disinterestedly, you will attain the highest good. Foster the gods through this, through sacrifice, and let the gods be gracious to you. Each fostering other disinterestedly, you will attain the highest good." So, sacrifice, I'm guessing, is action, because each fostering other disinterestedly, you will attain the highest good. Fostered by sacrifice, the gods will surely bestow on you unasked all the desired enjoyments. He who enjoys the gift bestowed by them without giving them in return is undoubtedly a thief. So you can't enjoy the gifts that's bestowed on you without giving something in return, without sacrificing something. If you do that, you're a thief. But if you do sacrifice, the gods will surely give you everything you desired without you even asking. I've opened up, I found a copy with explanation in English, so that if we don't know what's going on, we can go over to this one and read the description, which I'm going to do for this one, because I'm not really sure what it's trying to say. The virtuous who partake of what is left over after sacrifice are absolved of all sins. Those sinful ones who cook for the sake of nourishing their body alone eat only sin. Right? So it kind of makes sense, but also, like, I'm not sure if what I'm thinking is correct. So I'll link this down in the description as well. It's all free. So this one is a little different, but it's saying the same thing. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Okay, what is it talking about? So up here it gives some preamble. The santas, I guess I'll read the whole thing. The devotees of the Supreme Lord, or the persons who are in Krishna consciousness, are called santas. And they are always in love with the Lord, as it is described in the Brahma Samhita, Yeah, I know I'll butcher all of that because it's written in English. The Santas being always in a compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the giver of all pleasures, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, or Krishna, the all attractive person, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yasanas in different modes of devotional service, such as Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Arkanam, etc. And these performances of yasanas keep them always aloof from all kind of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves, but are also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he's both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. Therefore, in order for people to be happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of Sankirtana Yasna in full Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world. So, it's saying you have to offer it to God. You have to offer your food to God before eating it. You can't just eat for the sake of eating alone. Okay? And then all beings are evolved from food. Production of food is dependent on rain. Rain ensues from sacrifice, and sacrifice is rooted in prescribed action. Know that prescribed action has its origin in the Vedas, and the Vedas proceed from the indestructible God. Hence, all the pervading infinite is always present in sacrifice. I'll read that again. All beings are evolved from food. And all beings are evolved from food. Clear enough? Production of food is dependent on rain. Clear enough? Rain ensues from sacrifice, and sacrifice is rooted in prescribed action. Know that prescribed action has its origin in the Vedas, and the Vedas proceed from the indestructible God. Hence, all the pervading infinite is always present in sacrifice. So what is it talking about? So I understand it till here. Rain ensues from sacrifice, and sacrifice is rooted in prescribed action. I understand it only till here. After this is kind of confusing. So let's look at this one. What this is saying. This is good. If instead of just guessing and going along with our guesses, we can clear things up, right? All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rain. Rains are produced by performance of yasana, sacrifice, and yasana is born of prescribed duties. So this one doesn't talk about yasana, sacrifice. It does, but it doesn't use the word yasana. That's a big description. We'll read it. So the Supreme Lord, who is known as the Yasana Purus, or the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all demigods who serve him, as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varun, etc. are appointed officers who manage material affairs. And the Vedas direct sacrifices to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, and water sufficiently to produce food grains. When Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods who are different limbs of the Lord are automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate need to worship the demigods. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord, who are in Krishna consciousness, offer food to Krishna and then eat a process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, not only are past sinful reactions in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized to all the contamination of material nature. When there is an epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects a person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to Lord Vishnu and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to material affection, and one who is accustomed to this practice is called a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all reactions of past material infections, which are impediments to the progress of self realization. On the other hand, one who does not do so continues to increase the volume of sinful action, and this prepares the next body to resemble hogs and dogs to suffer the resultant reactions of all sins. The material world is full of contaminations, and one who is immunized by accepting prasadam of the Lord, food offered to Vishnu, is saved from the attack, whereas one who does not do so becomes subjected to contamination. Prepares the next body to resemble hogs and dogs. So if you don't offer it, your next life is gonna be hogs and dogs. That's a result of your sins. Food, grains, or vegetables are factually eatables. The human being eats different kinds of food, grains, vegetables, fruits, etc., and the animals eat the refuse of the food, grains, and vegetable, grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetation in order to eat the animals. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not on the production of big factories. The field production is due to sufficient rain from the sky, and such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra, sun, moon, etc., and they're all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by many sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity, that is the law of nature. Yasana, specifically the Sankirtana Yasana prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from scarcity of food supply. Excuse me. So I want to keep this 50-50. So just reading this, we're not gonna get all of this content, and this is pretty good. Like I feel like I understand way more than just reading this small passage and moving forward. So if it makes sense, I'll just go along with it. But if it doesn't, I'll read the whole description. Yeah, I got this. 16. Arjun, he who does not follow the wheel of creation, thus set going in this world, i.e., does not perform his duties, sinful and sensual, he lives in vain. Let's read that again. Arjun, he who does not follow the wheel of creation, thus set going in this world, i.e., does not perform his duties, sinful and sensual, he lives in vain. So you gotta do whatever your duties are. If you don't, you're sinful, sensual, you live in vain. I think that's about what that's saying. What is it, 16? My dear Arjun, a man who does not follow this prescribed Vedic system of sacrifice certainly leads a life of sin, for a person delighting only in the senses lives in vain. Okay. He, however, who takes delight in the self alone. Did we skip one? I don't think so. That is 14 and 15. This one. So, this one's together. This one's separate. Let's read 15 for this one. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, all the pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So this expanding upon the last one. Lives in vain. Number 17. He, however, who takes delight in the self alone and is gratified with the self and is contented in the self has no duty. One who is, however, taking pleasure in the self, who is illuminated in the self, who rejoices and is satisfied with the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. So if you who takes delight in the self and is gratified with the self, you have no duty. So you don't have to do what you're supposed to do. Because up here, it says you got to do what you're supposed to do. Down here it says, if you're gratified with the self, you don't got to do what you got to do. Because you don't have anything to do. Let's read this small description. A person who is fully Krishna conscious and is fully satisfied by his acts in Krishna consciousness no longer has any duty to perform. Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed, an effect of many, many thousands of yajna performances. By such clearing of consciousness, one becomes fully confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme. His duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligations to the Vedic injunctions. Such a Krishna-conscious person is no longer interested in material activities, and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, women, and similar infatuations. Okay? So you're clearing of conscious. His duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligations to the Vedic injunctions. If you're not conscious, if you're not Krishna conscious, or to say it better, if you're not delighted with yourself and is gratified with the self, then you need to do your duties, because you're living in the material world, I guess. And then if you have, after thousands of yajna performances, achieved that state, then nothing really matters to you anymore. That's what I'm understanding from that. Number 18. In this world, that great soul has no use whatsoever for things done, nor for things not done, nor has he selfish dependence of any kind of any creature. In this world, that great soul has no use whatsoever for things done, nor for things not done, nor has he selfish dependence of any kind of any creature. Okay. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. A self-realized man, description, is no longer obligated to perform any prescribed duty, save and except activities in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not inactivity either, as will be explained in the following verses. A Krishna conscious man does not take shelter of any person, man, or demigod. Whatever he does in Krishna consciousness is sufficient in the discharge of his obligation. A Krishna conscious man does not take shelter of any person, man, or demigod. Whatever he does in Krishna consciousness is sufficient in the discharge of his obligation. Therefore, go on efficiently doing your duty without attachment. Doing work without attachment, man attains the Supreme. I'll read both. I'll read both this and this because they're a little different. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. The Supreme is the personality of Godhead for the devotees, and the liberation of the impersonalist. A person, therefore, acting for Krishna or in Krishna consciousness under proper guidance and without attachment to the result of the work, is certainly making progress towards the supreme goal of life. Arjuna is told that he should fight in the battle of Kurukshetra for the interest of Krishna because Krishna wanted him to fight. To be a good man or a non-violent man is a personal attachment, but to act on behalf of the Supreme is to act without attachment for the result. That is perfect action of the highest degree, recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Vedic rituals like prescribed sacrifices are performed for purification of impious activities that were performed in the field of sense gratification. But action in Krishna consciousness is transcendental to the reactions of good or evil work. A Krishna conscious person has no attachment for the result, but acts on behalf of Krishna alone. He engages in all kinds of activities, but is completely non-attached. A Krishna conscious person has no attachment for the result, but acts on behalf of Krishna alone. He engages in all kinds of activities, but is completely non-attached. It is through action, without attachment, alone that Janaka and other wise Janaka, alone that Janaka and other wise men reached perfection, having an eye to maintenance of the world order. Too, you should take to action. Even kings like Janaka and other attained the perfectional stage by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So, Janaka was a king who have attained the perfectional stage. How he did that is by performance of prescribed duties. So even if you're even if you're the king, you've attained that. You should perform your work just for the sake of educating people in general. It's not that long. We can read the description. Kings like Janaka and others were all self-realized souls. Consequently, they had no obligation to perform the prescribed duties in the Vedas. Nonetheless, they performed all prescribed activities just to set examples for the people in general. Janaka was the father of Sita. Oh, I remember now. Janaka was the father of Sita and father-in-law of Lord Sri Ram. Being a great devotee of the Lord, he was transcendentally situated, but because he was the king of Mithila, a subdivision of Bihar province in India, he had to teach his subjects how to fight righteously in battle. He and his subjects fought to teach people in general that violence is also necessary in a situation where good arguments fail. Before the battle of Kurukshetra, every effort was made to avoid the war, even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the other party was determined to fight. So for such a right cause, there is a necessity of fighting. Although one who is situated in Krishna consciousness may not have any interest in the world, he still works to teach the public how to live and how to act. Experienced persons in Krishna consciousness can act in such a way that others will follow, and this is explained in the following verse. Man, I actually enjoy reading the description because it gives so much more context. Because we would not know what Janaka, what his story was. He was a king, and he showed his people that it is okay to fight, right? Which is the same scenario that we're in with Arjuna and Krishna. For Whatever a great man does, that very thing other men also do. Whatever standard he sets up, the generality of men follow the same. Okay, it's following the last verse. Whatever whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow in his footsteps. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Kantya said that a teacher should behave properly even before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called Akarya, or the ideal teacher. Akarya. Akarya is like shape. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principles of Sastra, scripture, to reach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. The revealed scriptures like Manu Samhita and similar others are considered the standard book to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king or the executive head of the state, the father and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes. Makes sense? I don't think I need to explain anything there. We're on verse 22 now. Arjun, there's nothing in all the three worlds for me to do, nor is there anything worth attaining unattained by me. Yet I continue to work. O son of Parth, there's no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want for anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in work. Does that make sense? He has achieved everything and anything that's possible to achieve. But he's still working. He's still there in the battlefield with Arjun right now. You know, he doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to do anything, right? But he does it to teach others, right? We can read this as well. The Supreme Lord is the controller of all other controllers, and he is the greatest of all the diverse planetary leaders. Everyone is under his control. All entities are delegated with particular power only by the Supreme Lord. They are not supreme themselves. He is also worshipable by all demigods, and is the supreme director of all directors. Therefore, he is transcendental to all kinds of material leaders and controllers, and is worshipable by all. There's no one greater than him, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. He does not possess bodily form like that of an ordinary living entity. There is no difference between his body and his soul. He is absolute. All his senses are transcendental. Any of his senses can perform the action of any other sense. Therefore, no one is greater than him or equal to him. His potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds are automatically performed as a natural sequence. Since everything is in full opulence in the personality of Godhead and is existing in full truth, there is no duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to perform. One who must receive the results of work has some designated duty, but one who has nothing to achieve within the three planetary systems certainly has no duty. And yet, Lord Krishna is engaged on the battlefield of Kurukshetra as the leader of the Kshatriya, leader of the Kshatriyas, because the Kshatriyas are duty bound to give protection to the distressed. Although he is above all the regulations of the revealed scriptures, he does not do anything that violates the revealed scriptures. So even he doesn't violate the revealed scriptures. Like, yeah, dude, I called it. He's there on the battlefield, right? Even though he doesn't need to be. 23. Should I not engage in action scrupulously at any time? Great harm will come to the world. For Arjun, men follow my way in all matters. If I did not engage in work, O Parth, certainly all men would follow my path and not engage in any work. We can read this as well. I've been enjoying reading these. In order to keep the balance of social tranquility for progress in spiritual life, their traditional family uses is meant for every civilized man. Although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned souls and not Lord Krishna, because he descended to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules. Otherwise, common men would follow in his footsteps because he is the greatest authority. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is understood that the Lord Krishna was performing all the religious duties at home and out of home, as required of a householder, even though he doesn't need to. If I cease to act, these worlds will perish. Nay, I should prove to be the cause of confusion and of the destruction of these people. If I cease to work, then all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would also be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all sentient beings. Arjun, as the unwise act with attachment, so should the wise man seeking maintenance of the world order act without attachment. As the unwise act with attachment, so should the wise man seeking maintenance of the world order act without attachment. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, similarly the learned may also act but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. A person in Krishna consciousness and a person not in Krishna consciousness are differentiated by different desires. A Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not conducive to development of Krishna consciousness. Let's read that again. A Krishna consciousness person does not do anything which is not conducive to development of Krishna consciousness. He may even act exactly like the ignorant person, who is too much attached to material activities, but one is engaged in such activities for the satisfaction of his sense gratification, whereas the other is engaged for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, the Krishna conscious person is required to show the people how to act and how to engage the results of action for the purpose of Krishna consciousness. You gotta be a leader. That's what I'm hearing. A wise man established in the self should not unsettle the mind of the ignorant attached to action, but should get them to perform all their duties, duly performing his own duties. Let not the wise disrupt the minds of the ignorant who are attached to fruitive action. They should not be encouraged to refrain from work, but to engage in work in the spirit of devotion. All actions are being performed by the modes of Prakriti, primordial matter. The fool, whose mind is deluded by egoism, thinks, I am the doer. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities, which are in actuality carried out by nature. So everything is carried out by Prakriti, but mind that is deluded by egoism thinks, I am doing it. We can read this. Two persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he's the doer of everything. He does not know that mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is the symptom of his nescience. The person of false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is the symptom of his nescience. He does not know that his gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. If you don't like the word Krishna consciousness, because Krishna is the name of the God, right? Name of the God we're talking to. You can think of Krishna consciousness as like being, just being, right? Because there's this, even if you don't believe in God, you can still believe in some energy form that is within you, because there is. Like this is describing your body has its own energy, and it's controlled by, it says controlled by Krishna. So Krishna, you can think of, it's controlled by some energy. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Harsikesa, or the master of the senses of the material body, for due to his long misuse of the senses in sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. He, however, who has true insight into the respective spheres of gunas, modes of prakriti, and their actions, holding that it is the gunas in the shape of the senses, mind, etc., that move among the gunas, objects of perception, does not get attached to them, Arjun. Let me read that again. He, however, who has true insight into the respective spheres of gunas, modes of prakriti, and their actions, holding that it is the gunas in the shape of the senses, mind, etc., that move among the gunas, objects of perception, does not get attached to them, Arjun. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. We should have hit an hour. I will pause here on page 96. We're on chapter 3, verse 28. Maybe from next episode I'll do each chapter in a different video, but for now, yeah. All this is linked down in the description. This is episode 3. I'll link episode 2 here, episode 4 here, or vice versa. They'll be here somewhere. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you're following along. This has been very interesting. I'm glad I'm doing this. And see you on the next one. Bye-bye.